Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 7th of May. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. Did you have a good day off yesterday, Joshua?
I did, Derek. I didn't catch you and Johnny. I'm sure it was great.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, looking forward to watch the game back this morning because I kind of watched it. I was off work on Sunday, so you know what it's like, Derek. You're not watching it with your full attention. So yeah, lots to talk about in the lead up to the big one on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get stuck in, folks, you know the drill by now. Just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. They've got those wonderful Viessmann boilers on offer at this moment in time. They've got those flexible finance options, first year interest free, the free internet controller they chuck in with every boiler that you purchase as well. The all important links are in the description below. Right, you can see the title in the video this morning. It's Lawrence or Cantwell, who starts at Parkhead. We sort of touched on it yesterday when I was on with Johnny about potential team selection ahead of that trip across the city, and could Rangers potentially change the shape? But those two players, it's somewhat, I mean, it's one or the other. It appears under Philippe Clement. Joshua, Tom Lawrence came off the bench on Sunday and made an almost immediate impact, cracking goal, great technique. It was influential in the fourth goal as well, with a striking goal that Will Dennis parried, only for John Souttar to nod home. Todd Cantwell, it's fair to say, hasn't been his scintillating best. He was good at Hampden against Hearts a couple of weeks ago, but his last visit to Parkhead wasn't the best, it's fair to say. Do you think it's a decision for Philippe Clement to make, who starts, one or the other, or can he get both in that starting 11 at the weekend? And let us know in the comments, folks, as well. What's your take on it, Joshua?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be both. I think that we'll take Cantwell firstly. The reason the Hearts game suited him, Derek, was because Rangers don't play like they did against Hearts that much under Clement, I don't think. And a large reason a large element of that was the fact that Hearts played two in midfield that day. I think they kind of played into Rangers' hands a bit with the way that they approached that game, and that allowed Cantwell to just constantly get on the ball. I think the best bit of Cantwell's game is the way he receives the ball, the way he turns really quickly in dangerous positions. We know his game's had to adapt towards Philippe Clement. He's staying high more often than not. He's not moving towards the ball as much. Maybe the build-up plays a bit quicker than it has been at different points throughout his time at Rangers. Lawrence, we've seen him playing that deeper role, and Ibrox in a couple of games that looks good. It's clearly not a long-term solution, and you see that away from home, especially in games where Rangers, I think, have kind of lacked legs off the ball. That number 10 role is clearly his best position. It was a fantastic goal. That's probably the best part of his game. If you had to ask me now, I think it will be Cantwell with Lawrence coming off the bench because there'll be more running. However, Clement did start Lawrence in the last Old Firm, didn't he? In the number 10 position. What you would say, Derek, is he didn't have a great game on that occasion. So there's lots of big decisions to make right across the front four. Who starts on the right? Who starts on the left? If Abdallah Sima can do 60 minutes, does he start or does he come off the bench? I think if you ask me now, it will be Cantwell, and I think he probably merits it based on the fact that Lawrence didn't really take his opportunity in the last Old Firm game. However, would definitely expect to see them both kind of regardless of the result, and maybe mirroring what we saw at the weekend, which was Cantwell do 60 minutes and Lawrence do the last 30.
Yeah, Rob pulling me up here. He says, Cantwell or Lawrence? Derek always goes back to Cantwell was poor at Parkhead. Lawrence was terrible at Ibrox. I get your point, Rob. He wasn't the best, it's fair to say. And Tam echoes that. It says, neither have turned up in a meaningful Old Firm yet. I'm sort of humming and hawing. I think Cantwell, like you, Joshua, I think he will get the nod, but we need more from him. He's one of those game-changing players, and Rangers need everyone at the top of their game on Saturday to get a result at Parkhead, a venue that has been historically a difficult one that Rangers have endured down the years. So we're going to need an absolutely scintillating performance over there. Me and Johnny was speaking about potential change in shape yesterday. Will Philippe Clement maybe ruffle the pack and leave Celtic guessing and alter his formation? Now, Leon Balogun came off at the weekend at the break. It remains to be seen the extent of his injury. Good to see Ben Davies coming back in and marking his return with a goal. Johnny wants to see a back three at Parkhead. Joshua, can you see that happening?
Who does he want in the back three?
Off the top of my head, I think you want. I can't remember if he thinks Balogun's going to be fit or not, but obviously Suter, Suter, Davis, Balogun. If not Balogun, I think Dujon Sterling.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. To kill the talking point within 2 seconds, Derek. But I'll indulge it. For me, the area where Rangers have lost the game, and we're going to cover this more on the website towards the end of the week. There's a few things, and I think the fact that Celtic have had players who've stepped up on this occasion and had goal scorers who've kind of pushed the margins in this fixture plays a big part in the overall results. But Rangers have not won the midfield battle in an Old Firm game for so long. And I don't mean battle in a kind of just an aggression sense, winning duels, although that's really important. But I don't think they've had a better midfield performance than Celtic's midfield three in a long time. It'll probably be, we think, Hatate, McGregor and O'Reilly. Rangers need to match that, Derek. And for me, the way that they're going to win this game, if they are going to win this game, is by being aggressive. I think one of Celtic's weaker points is how you limit them in the build-up. If they get into their rhythm and they get into the final third and they can pin you back, I think that's when they're really dangerous. I think Rangers have to try and keep them in their own half as much as possible, and put three men in the midfield. Now I know Cantwell plays high, but off the ball, if it is him, he'll be tasked with tracking number 10. I guess the question is, where does Sterling play? Because he could play in a number of different positions. Does he play in the middle? If he plays in the middle, who for? Because Diomande has to play, and you imagine that Lundstrom's going to play. So I do think it'll probably be Sterling off one of the wings. If you're going to Parkhead with, we don't know where Seaman is, but if you're going to Parkhead with him as an option, and let's say very, very unlikely that he will start at this point, but you never know, it's not been a long-term injury. Ridvan, we obviously saw come back off the bench. It would get him back in the starting 11 as quickly as possible, but again, depends on his fitness. They're all players that you want in that equation. I don't think Rangers will change shape at all. I think three centre-backs would just invite pressure. And also, we've only seen Clement do that once. And the only time he's done that is when he didn't have a left-back. It was kind of extreme circumstances right back at the start of his time. It was away in Prague, wasn't it? Even when he's not had wingers over recent weeks. He's not used the full-backs all the time as width. He has in points, but he's not changed shape and went to a back three then. So I don't think that will happen. I think the most important decision he'll have, Derek, is who plays in the midfield and how the Rangers try to play in the midfield, because I think that's where this Old Firm game will probably be won or lost.
Yep, lots of interesting points coming in on the chat. I want to bring up a few of them. Just on the back line, Kathy with a point. I just touched on Ben Davies. She wants to know what your view of Ben Davies was from the weekend. Josh, I thought he did well when he came on. I liked that it allowed John Suter to play on his natural right-hand side, where he looks a lot more comfortable. Good anticipation to get Rangers' second goal of the afternoon as well. I know that there's some that are a bit apprehensive about that back two starting at Parkhead, given they've endured a torrid time at times over there in the past. But what do you make of Davies? Can you see him starting at the weekend?
Yeah, I thought he was good when he came on. You would say that obviously Rangers are only playing against one centre forward at that point in time, so it's not it's a different type of challenge. Yeah, it's a kind of attack versus defence drill for a lot of that second half. I think that at times Rangers were good in that second half. I mean, they shot from distance a lot, and that's been a theme under Clement, especially against teams at Ibrox. They took a lot of shots from distance. I think it was only the Ross County game. What did they have, Derek? About 38 shots or something like that at the weekend, and
41, I think it was. 41 attempts.
Which is, I mean, that's 10 men or not, that's a lot of shots. But I thought Davies was good. He's a player that's really good on the ball. He's a player that probably isn't strong enough in his duels at all times, which is why you've not seen him play that frequently. But Clement spoke well about him after. If he puts in a good performance this weekend, then he will quickly be back in the good books, I'm sure, with supporters. He in last season's Old Firms, I actually think he was a better fit centre back, because Goldson, I don't think his strength is kind of defending the space in front of him, and that's where Kyogo scored quite a lot of goals from. in these Old Firm fixtures, where I think Davies is better at that. But as you say, because when the game's on the ground, it suits him more. If he's up against a big physical centre back, I don't think that's his game whatsoever. I think that's the weaker part of his game. Souttar and Davies obviously did have that performance. It was a 3-2 game, wasn't it, Derek, where they both made an error leading to a goal. I expect it to probably be them, depending on how Leon Balogun is. And again, we'll find that out towards the end of the week. But yeah, a good performance for him to come back into the team. It'll be a very different performance, a very different type of game if he does indeed stay in the team for Saturday's Old Firm.
Yep, interesting. You said that, yeah, you can imagine Dujon Sterling playing where he has done in the last couple of games over on that right-hand side. A few comments coming in about where supporters want to see him play. Hugo Bear says Sterling in midfield as an enforcer. Now, I want to get your view on this, Joshua. I've seen a comment over the weekend talking about Tav, of course. Didn't cover himself in glory at Kilmarnock's opening goal. He's the prospect of Daizan Maeda going up against him at Parkhead is one that many are slightly concerned about. Why don't Rangers just flip Dujon Sterling with James Tavernier, push James Tavernier up and play Dujon Sterling at right back? Do you think that's a viable alternative?
Probably not. I mean, it's not happened up until now, is it? Why doesn't he play higher? I don't think is going back to something that I remember Stephen Gerrard saying this when they were trying to fit Patterson and Tavernier into the same team, which was the start of the 21-22 season, not long before Gerrard left. And he said, look, Tavernier's strength is not receiving with his back to goal, which is probably why he doesn't play higher. If we talk about purely in possession, and he plays really narrow at the weekend, I don't mind Tavernier and Sterling as a right-sided partnership. I think they had a lot of dangerous moments, and I thought that Rangers actually should have got the ball to Sterling a lot more in the first half on Saturday, because he had his man on a yellow card within 10 to 15 minutes, and he was the only player. And again, this is a feature under Clement. He just has more players in the team who run at people, and I don't think you can underestimate how important that is, because so often we've watched Rangers teams in recent years where it's not only about it going side to side, but it's about there's a real lack of players in there who can go by players 1v1 and unsettle a defence, which Sterling can do. And I think, as I've said before, Sterling's actually arguably better at controlling those moments than most of, if not all, Rangers wingers, maybe bar Oscar Cortez. But I think in an in-possession point of view, it doesn't make sense. I do agree with the fact that Tavernier's had, for all the fact that this debate kind of gets brought up as a meme on the show, Tavernier's not had a great couple of months defensively. The made-up goal, obviously, in the most recent Old Firm stands out as the key moment. But I don't think Clement's going to change it now. And that ties into the shape change as well. And it probably ties into who's he going to play in that front four. You know, I wouldn't start Dessers and Silva in that left wing and number 9 position if I had the chance to do so. But that is, you know, Clement is that is one of the relationships, I guess, that's been formed on the pitch. So how much is he going to change going into such a big game like that at the weekend? You need Sterling in there somewhere. I think you need his energy higher up the pitch. In an ideal world, you would have 3 or 4 of them, and you'd be able to play him at right back and on the wing and in midfield. But that is not the case. While ideally you'd probably want him in the centre of midfield, I think the question is, Derek, is who's going to start? Diamandi's going to start. Lundstrom's going to start. And neither of those players are going to play at number 10. Now, maybe Diamandi could play higher. I think he can do that, but I'd be surprised if Clement didn't start Cantwell or Lawrence. Yeah. I think if you have to ask me now what will the team be in midfield, I think it'll be Diamandi, Lundstrom and Cantwell with Sterling out wide. Might be proven wrong on that. As I say, I would like Sterling in the middle in an ideal world, but if you look at how he's played over the last couple of weeks, I think he'll be off one of the wings depending on whether Abdallah Sima is fit or not.
Yeah, he'll play Lundstrom in there, but I'm concerned that there's not enough legs for me in the middle of the park. Celtic have got legs in that midfield. If Rangers play Dujon Sterling in there, as Maka gets in touch and says I'd start Cantwell in midfield with Dujon. They can cancel out McGregor and Maeda. Easier said than done. Ryan Brown also an interesting point. Says Lawrence doesn't have the legs to play at Celtic Park. Play midfield 3, Dio, Lunny and Dujon. Push Cantwell into the front 3 and play him close to Dessers. So I think that Johnny said that he would play Fabio Silva up top, Joshua, as opposed to Cyril Dessers. I think that's likely, or will we see Fabio over on that left-hand side as we have been? And I guess it depends, like you say, on Abdallah Sima. I don't think he'll start the game anyway, but do you think we'll see a similar front 3?
I was with my dad yesterday, and he was lamenting Dessers. My dad's views on Dessers are very in line with
Not alone.
Yeah, not alone. Actually, he missed opportunities. I also think he won duels. If you look at the build up to the third goal, I think one of the things that is in Dessers' games now that wasn't at the start is that he can win those battles with defenders, and he did that twice leading up to Lawrence's goal. Missed some big moments. Also got himself into good positions. Kind of nothing we've learned that is new. If you played that game next week, I'm sure he'd go and score in it, because that's how his Rangers career has gone so far. The question is the big moments, and Dessers, yes, he scored that goal away at Real Betis. He scored in the Cup semi-finals. He scored the goal away at St Mirren. So I don't think it's a fact that he has not scored in big moments, Derek, but the Old Firm is different. And I think what underpins this whole narrative is that people watching the Old Firm, Rangers supporters, will want to go into. They've not had someone who's kind of, I guess, dominated that fixture, or been someone who's gone into the game and you've thought, do you know what, he's always going to give us an opportunity in an attacking sense, probably in a number of years back to when the start of Ryan Kent's Rangers career, when he was really good in this fixture. Aside from that, they've really lacked that in a way that Celtic have had that with Kyogo in 2023. I wouldn't start both Silva and Dessers purely because, to go back to that point, I think you want people, for what this game is going to look like, you want wingers as much as possible on either side. Now, we've not seen two wingers start since the away win at Kilmarnock, and that for me has impacted Rangers' balance a lot. Yeah. In an ideal world, if you have Ridvan back in there and two wingers, whether that be McCausland and Sterling, I'm counting Sterling as a winger in this conversation, or McCausland and Sima, now the options are still light. That is what I would go for. In terms of Dessers or Silva, Silva's an interesting one because I thought it was a better performance for him at the weekend. Obviously, he had that goal, and I'm sure you've discussed the celebration after the goal as well. I know some news came out about maybe where that was directed towards critics, but yeah, we'll leave that one from now, because I'm sure people have made up their minds about that. Yeah, it wasn't there. Yeah, but outside of that, I thought it was a better performance from him, because he was able to play narrower. He was able to combine. We did a piece a couple of weeks ago, Derek, where I spoke to his coach at PSV, who is Van Nistelrooy's assistant out there and works very closely with Silva, and he was speaking about his relationship with Xavi Simons. Now, Rangers do not have a player as good as Xavi Simons, and I realise that is what people will jump out towards, but he was saying, look, Silva's not a player who, if you isolate him out wide, that's not where he's going to thrive, because he's not someone who, and I think you see this when he gets the ball in the wing, he's not someone who beats people all the time. He's not someone who thrives when he's isolated. He's better when he's playing in combination with people, and when he can maybe rely on teammates to find him. He's clearly a good player. He's, I think, played out of position a lot. I think he's had some bad moments as well, and it's important to distinguish that. Out on the left, I still don't think you're going to see the best of him unless it's a game like the weekend where, and again, Kilmarnock are down to 10 men, but he's allowed to move inside a lot and he's given a little bit more freedom. So if you offered it to me now, I'm not sure who I'd go with up top, because we've also not seen Silva play as that number 9 in quite a long time. But I wouldn't start Silva and Dessers purely because you want as many runners in that game as possible. And I think if Rangers can get two wingers in the team, then I think that will help them.
I think it'll depend as well. Rabbi Matondo wasn't part of the squad at the weekend, whether he is back available. But again, is he better used as an impact sub rather than from the start? There is that debate to have as well. Interesting point. Just on Fabio Silva, incidentally, a source close to the player just on the celebration said, Fabio is very professional and would never do anything against the club he represents. That movement of the shirt is, I'm here, talk a lot, but I'm here. So it was aimed at his critics more than anything else. But I think it was ill-advised, and I'd imagine the manager will be having a word with him. That being said, you can do whatever you like at Parkhead next week, Fabio, as long as you score important goals for the club that leads to a win. So there you go. That's how I feel about that. We touched on Ridvan. Joshua, Blazing Blues says Ridvan's return is good timing. Balance on the left-hand side. He has been badly missed. There is no doubt about it. Nothing against Bonner. We're going to discuss Bonner shortly, just in a little while as well. A few comments coming in about some idiot giving abuse outside Ibrox, so we'll touch on that. But Ridvan returning, good to see that, Joshua. And I'd imagine he'll be starting at the weekend, surely.
Oh, I hope so. Well, it was the last Celtic game that he was, there was a race against fitness. Is he going to be back for? Yeah. Clement, when he's discussed the injury, is hinted that it's been a bit of a confusing one because he couldn't put an exact time frame on it. He said that Ridvan had been training on his own for quite a while. Rangers have missed him for a lot of reasons, Derek. Number one, because he was, I think, their most informed player at the start of 2024, coming into his best moment in a Rangers shirt. Individually, he gives you just so much variation, and that, I think, is the hallmark of where you hope Rangers squad is going. If you look at a player like a Diomande or a Cortez or a Ridvan or a Sterling as well, they're all modern players who can play in a multitude of different positions on the pitch. Diomande can get the ball deeper, run beyond. We know Dujon Sterling can do everything apart from playing goals or up front. But Ridvan's the same. He can move inside the pitch. He can overlap. He can combine with people. He can cross. He can dribble beyond players. That's not to say he's brilliant at all those things, but it gives you more variation, and that has been what Rangers have lacked for so many years of playing against a low block. For me, is that it's been the same thing. You've got maybe more players like Lundstrom and Barisic who or others who have strengths and have had big moments, and then we'll come on to discuss Barisic, but they don't have that variation of different ways, I think, that they can upset a defence in the same way as those other players I've discussed. Ridvan was probably Rangers' best player alongside Sterling in the Parkhead defeat. He was actually playing up against Maeda on that day, but as you say, expect Maeda to play probably on the left-hand side for Celtic at the weekend. So yeah, hopefully he can come back into the starting 11 for Rangers, because as the comment said, he just gives you balance in a number of different ways. The question is, having been out for so long, are they going to throw him in from the start? And if they were going to throw him in from the start, would they add a little bit more game time?
Yeah, I think they've got to. He's got to be bullshit. There's a comment come in, says Clement has to be brave with his selections, and I totally agree. But I'd be starting Ridvan if he's fit enough to feature, even if it's as Clement normally says, he's not fit to play the full 90, but he's able to start the game. I'd be starting Ridvan and looking to take him off as the match wears on. But let us know in the comments, folks, whether you agree. Or would you start Borna at left back? Thought he was steady enough at the weekend, but Ridvan just offers so much more going forward. Stephen with a point here, he says they'll be playing Kuhn, I'd imagine, over on that side. Can see Ridvan taking the boy Kuhn to pieces. The wee man needs to play from the start as long as possible. Here. Now on Borna, you'd have seen an unsavoury video doing the rounds on social media last night. Jonathan Beaumont with an interesting point. He says, I'm disgusted with a small minority of our fans abusing our players. It's not on and needs to stop. No one should be abused in their workplace. Need to support the boys, not abuse them. This is Borna was signing the autographs for some of the young kids and what have you when he's leaving Ibrox, and some guy was hurling abuse at him that he didn't take too kindly of. I also seen a video of some guy, I'm not too sure if it's the same individual. Jack Butland wasn't too best pleased either. If you're doing that sort of thing, please don't turn up at Ibrox. We don't need characters like that, Joshua. That is out of order. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, I think any football club would probably be in agreement with that. That it's there's always a line, and if you're shouting at football players outside a stadium, then you've probably gone past the line. So yeah, I'd agree with you, and I don't have much more to add than your nuanced assessment of it. Yeah. But to go on to Barisic, I think that he did have a decent enough game at the weekend. I'd still play Ridvan. I still think Ridvan gives Rangers a lot more in there. But I do think that you saw Barisic, you could see how Clement had been working with him to move inside at different points. We know that's not his natural game. Had a couple of nice cutbacks. Didn't think he was always crossing it from deep. But yeah, as we've discussed, I think Ridvan is a player who gives Rangers a bit more variation, and he should be in there if he's fit.
Yeah, and this was an interesting point that caught my eye from Ross just on the start to the game on Saturday. Now, I imagine Celtic will start as they normally do. That being said, I thought Rangers started brightly at Parkhead in the New Year game. They're going to have to be brave on the ball from the off. Ross with a point. When was the last time we started a game? Well, first 20 is giving me the fear already for Saturday. I think the first goal is absolutely pivotal in this game, Josh. Rangers get it. They give themselves a fighting chance. If they lose it, I can see it only going one way. But the opening stages of this one is huge for Rangers. If any opportunities come their way, they need to take them. They need to be clinical in front of goal. It's something the manager touched on after the weekend game. It was 4-1, should have been more, however. If opportunities arise, then Rangers need to be taking them, and they need to be in Celtic's faces from the off. How do you see it going, the first sort of opening 15 to 20-minute spell?
Yeah, we'll go back to the. Do you remember well, you will remember it when Rangers lost 4-0 under Van Bronckhorst, and they conceded the second goal from a quick free kick. And there was that video that emerged of Van Bronckhorst, who is normally a very calm manager in the touchline, and absolutely mental as players for not being alive to the restart. So it's been something that's been, I think, Celtic's intensity in this game compared to Rangers over the last couple of years at times has been pretty stark. Under Clement, I agree with you. I don't think you can necessarily pin that on his team. If you look back to the last game, and again, we'll cover this in the build-up. We'll have loads of coverage on the website in the build-up to the game on Saturday, Derek. But Rangers probably had the better openings for the first 30 minutes. And I'm not only talking about shots or expected goals, but you think of Sima going through on goal, you think of McCausland, when McCausland probably should pass the ball. But he tries to shoot, if memory serves me correctly. Obviously, the Dessers moment, and that's only 3. And I think there was probably a couple more as well. Sima had 2 opportunities. He had one where Cantwell was through on goal as well. Because of how Celtic play and because of how aggressive they will want to be to appease their own fans, Rangers will have space. You saw in the last Old Firm how a stadium can work for you or how a stadium can work against you. And Celtic scoring a goal like they did after 20 seconds with the ball going in off James Tavernier totally killed the home advantage. It allowed Celtic to settle into things, and they were, it was one of the most dominant one-sided Old Firm games in that first half for a long time, and Rangers managed to wrestle control and managed to go on. The second half was 3-1 obviously, and 3-3 at full time. The point being, Rangers have not done that to Celtic in an Old Firm in a long time. Used the home crowd against them, been able to start well. Now, if you can get the first goal, of course that happens. So I agree with you that I think they started decently enough in the Old Firm in New Year. I actually thought they started okay at the weekend as well. Against
Kilmarnock. It was against the play, Kilmarnock, and apart from all the VAR delays and what have you, that it was pretty much domination from start to finish. Apart from that,
I just think that when Rangers, and where the Kilmarnock goal actually comes from at the weekend there, because when Rangers are too direct, and sometimes because they want to attack quickly, that can lead to them trying to turn the defence too quickly. And Clement admitted this and spoke about this after the Dundee game. At times, that I think leads them to lose control of games. So they're going to have to control the midfield. They're going to have to, all the cliches, they're synonymous with an Old Firm game.
Yeah.
But then, and we'll come on to speak about this in the lead up to the game as well. In so many of these Old Firm games, while Celtic have deserved to win a lot of them, I think in 2023, there's been a lot as well where Rangers have had chances probably roughly of an equal value, if not more at times. And they've not been able to take them. Celtic have had, I think Kyogo scored 7 goals in that fixture last season. Rangers top scorer, last calendar year, Rangers top scorer was James Tavernier with 3. The only way that Rangers will win this game, aside from all the things we're going to touch upon, is if their forwards have the type of game that we've probably not seen them have in quite a while and be really incisive. And I think that's going to be something that I don't know how much, as Clement can work on that leading up to the game. I think it will really inform his selection, because if you go back to the Old Firm in New Year, that's what really hampered Rangers. They probably should have had the first goal based on how the opening 30 minutes went. They didn't. They were behind, and then obviously they were never really able to recover in that game.
Yeah, as Sid says, we need to be brave. Absolutely, it's all in the line. It's the title decider. Rangers need to win this game if they're to go on and win the title. It's a big ask, but better Rangers Rangers teams that have gone to Parkhead before. I know it was at the 25th anniversary recently of the famous 3-0 win when Rangers they did win the title in Celtic's backyard. So a similar performance would see Rangers go back to the top of the table. So there it is for Phil and the boys. That is all the motivation you need. We'll wrap up with this. Of course, Rangers women were involved in action yesterday. Big Old Firm league match, pretty much a league decider, that one as well at Broadwood. Ended goalless. It means that both teams are level on points. They've won the same amount of games, drawn the same amount, and lost the same amount. However, Celtic have the much healthier goal difference, 102 to Rangers 89. There's 3 matches left in the league season. So it's going to go right down to the wire, that one. But there is a great piece. Stevie is covered the match, and there's a piece coming on the website shortly, so you can have a read about that, about Joe Potter and the women's team in action yesterday. Right, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show as ever. Very much appreciated. Big thanks to Joshua as well. As he said, there is lots of Old Firm related content coming your way, both on the website and on the YouTube channel as well. So, the battle fever kicking in already with at least, how many sleeps is it now? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 4 sleeps to go until D-Day. Cannot wait for it. Right, we'll speak to you a little later on, folks. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye for now.